Welcome to the Liberal Factor. I know it's been a little while and I apologize for that. I'll try to keep this as brief as I can without trying to become much graver than I sound already. First thing I want to point your attention to, have you noticed how they had gun violence? Or is it just me imagining that it seems like a lot more people are shooting and getting shot than before? Oh, we don't need any gun regulations. The gun regulations that the Republicans will let pass, if they let pass any, are useless. And the only thing that could get passed at this stage is more, better background checks. Good luck with that. Do you think someone who's actually going to use a gun to hurt someone is going to have a gun license and will allow a full background check? No. They're not going to have the gun legally. If you remember a few years ago, former Giants receiver, currently Jets receiver, former Steelers receiver, Plexico Burress is caught holding a gun without a gun license. They shot himself in the foot. And if you can get your hands on a gun illegally, like Plex I'm guessing you didn't steal it from anybody, well, I'm sure a criminal could get it out just as easy, if not easier. But I'm not here to talk about gun violence, because if you wanted to hear about gun violence, you just go on the news. Same thing with Syria. However, in the news, I want to briefly mention the largest storm to ever hit the Philippines less than a couple days ago. 50-foot waves, winds over 100 miles an hour, at least 1,000 dead, and more wounded. There has been more storms and more violent storms than ever before. But that's not enough to convince people that there's such thing as climate change. No, it's just a usual thing that the ice caps are melting. We have the worst storms ever, again and again and again. The colds are not as cold. When are people going to admit there might be such thing as global warming? Or as I like to call it, climate change. We are polluting our atmosphere, and that's going to happen. We need to cut back on our ecological footsteps. Cut back on this greenhouse gases. Yes, as you can see, I am also a Steelers fan. I can talk about football if you want. However, what I'm here to talk about is not the record of the Steelers, is not the greenhouse gases, is not my sunglasses. The reason that I'm in a room that is completely pitch black to the viewers out there, or the superstorm that has recently hit the Philippines, or crazy white guys and their guns. No. But before I talk about my main topic, I'd like to talk about one more thing. And that is the popularity of our government. Because a recent events of our government, which I'm going to get to in a minute, the government is less popular, according to the people, than foot fungus, and I don't remember what the other one was. It was about that pleasant. But it's more pleasant than the Ebola virus, and taxes, I believe. Great. The people prefer a foot fungus in their government. You might be asking, what's going on with our government? Cool, my head's 90 degrees. Anyway, you might be asking, what's going on with our government? Because it is a weird situation, and it is quite complicated. The best I can understand it is mostly financial. It's a mix between the ACA and the debt ceiling. I'm going to start with the ACA, short for the Affordable Care Act, otherwise known as Obamacare, but I refuse to call it Obamacare because I find that to be derogatory, and that's a conservative bias, because Obama never signed a law called Obamacare. It's called the Affordable Care Act. If anything, it should be called Romney Care, because the original aspects of the bill came from Mitt Romney's healthcare plan in Massachusetts, and he was governor. Whew. So, this Affordable Care Act has all sorts of provisions to lower the cost of healthcare, to make it more widespread, to make it more available. And why is the screen darkening? There we go. To make it more available and easier for people to use. Also now, if you remember the not the prudential, what am I thinking? Progressive commercials, with the insurance price check. It won't quite be like that, but there will be a healthcare exchange program, so you'll be able to find your healthcare, look at other healthcare programs, and see which one's the best. I can't guarantee you're going to get a buzzer or a price scanner, but there is exchange available. Some aspects are already available now. Other aspects won't be available anywhere from now till January of 2020. And a lot more people will be able to get coverage, including those with physical or mental conditions or retardation, those with pre-existing conditions, even some people who are drug addicts. We will be able to get birth control pills for either a lot cheaper or for free, which is very helpful. So we don't have we don't have as many unplanned, unwanted teen pregnancies as we have now. Super cold. It seems like a very great law, and it is a very great law. There's all sorts of things I haven't mentioned yet, but I want to mention a few more. There's the employer's mandate. Any company which employs more than 50 people must give them all healthcare benefits. Otherwise, they will be fined until they do. And small businesses and people who have a hard time affording it will have government assistance. I think it's up to $47,000 a person if they're not making enough money to afford buying their own healthcare coverage. And so far, a majority of people don't have healthcare coverage or are not protected, or people who would be protected but have chosen not to get healthcare coverage. I do not understand why. However, people are upset about the individual mandate that everybody has to get healthcare. That's not true. I understand Obama promised that everybody would be able to keep their healthcare if they wanted to, and he tried to do that. And I'm sorry for you people out there who it did not work for. But for some people who did not keep their coverage, they got better coverage. So the 1 or 2 people out of the 1,000 who didn't get coverage as great as they wanted, I would have much appreciated if you could check your trap now. The ACA is in enough trouble as it is. A lot of it's from the website, which is because of the shutdown, because the government workers were sent home for 16 days, and they couldn't work on their site, which had all sorts of system problems because it wasn't finished. Plus, they were only expecting hundreds, maybe a couple thousand to be on the site. They got millions when it was up and running for the first time. Millions. That's how many people wanted it, and the servers, on top of its other problems, just got overwhelmed. And it should be up and running soon. Now I'll talk about the shutdown. The government shut down because they refused to work on a budget. That's what you've heard. That's a lie. Yes, the debt ceiling was coming up and people need more money. That's not why the government shut down. The government shut down because the conservative congresspeople in the House said, we will raise the debt ceiling if and only if you either repeal or agree to defund the ACA. And the ACA is already passed signed in 2010, and it was upheld by the Supreme Court in 2012. Thank you, Supreme Court Justice Roberts. And since 2010, there have been 42 attempts by the congressional GOP to shut it down or defund it. But now it's passed into law. The GOP, Obama can't repeal it. The only way for him to repeal it is, I believe, to have a 2/3 majority in the Senate and in the House, and then they can repeal it. But I believe you need an overwhelming supermajority. Obama can't just override the other 2 branches of government, become our monarch, and then erase a law that's not popular at the moment. If he did that, he'd be no better than King George III, who he spent 20 years and thousands upon thousands upon thousands of American lives. I'm not going back there. Nope. Try King George III. Not again. So, there was a standstill for 16 days because the Republicans in the House were asking the Democrats who were saying they could not do. The shutdown may have been averted if there was time to talk, but Senator Ted Cruz took up 23 hours to read Green Eggs and Ham to the Congress, which he claimed was his children's bedtime story. But still, he probably didn't need to read that while he was on stage for his filibuster. Ted Cruz said that as long as he could stand and speak, he would not let the Obamacare be passed, or ACA be passed, And 23 hours later, he sat down, and he voted to let ACA pass to avoid a shutdown, but it was not enough. So 16 days with unemployed government workers, keeping people like the World War II veterans out of the World War II monument in their honor. Because our government can't sit down and have a conversation and do stuff that's actually possible for them to do and to keep our country running. The last time something this absurd happened was 17 years ago under President Bill Clinton, also about financial reasons, if I remember correctly. I have exchange students going to my school, and when I talk to them, I sometimes joke about how it's funny that some of the governments they come from are considered to be more corrupt and not as good as ours. But for a while, their governments were up. Ours was not. 16 days people were sent home. Checks weren't made to veterans. People didn't get their paychecks. People didn't get their pensions. I have to say, after this is all said and done, I'm sorry this is late. I meant to do this during, if not the day after, the government reopened, or during the shutdown, or the day after the government reopened. But I've been kept quite busy from schoolwork, so it's now about 2 or 3 weeks late. But looking back, if I was able to make this October 24th, I have said, and I believe, the only thing to say at the time of that is that I was ashamed to be an American. To have no government because they can't get along, that's the epitome of sadness. At least unstable governments were still there. Our government wasn't there. We were supposed to have been there for the last 200 years supporting democracy. We were supposed to be the free world who fought communism in the Cold War and championed democracy. And our democracy is going, wee. Now I can't say I'm ashamed to be an American, but I am embarrassed to be an American. There is no excuse for what we have seen. The people we have elected to represent us and by proxy our nation squabble, quibble, and debate over meaningless things and refuse to speak to each other and act like irresponsible, spoiled children in front of a global stage. If those men are an accurate representation of the people in our country, I am embarrassed to be an American. Check that. I am ashamed to be an American if that's the representation of our country. I'll leave you on that thought. I'll try to have videos more frequently. I am not making any promises until I go on my Thanksgiving break, in which case I might be able to go back to a regular once a week. Thank you for watching this serious video. I am aware that my videos have only gotten longer through the years, and I'm intending to cut them down ASAP. See you next time, loyal viewers. New Liberal Head, the Liberal Head, signing out.